All right, item number 4 is a service for pre-emergent and post-emergent chemicals for weed abatement at various locations in the city. Does anybody not know what that means? I was the only one? All right. So presented by Spencer Morrison. Go ahead, Spencer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I may introduce a few people in the audience
Please.
tonight to help with the discussion if needed. We have from Barrows Landscaping, Sterling Barrow, Mark Barrow, and Bruce Popovich. And from Custom Agronomic Solutions, we have Donovan Dempson. And from the City of Yuba City, besides myself, we have Scott Chandler, Deputy Public Works Director.
Very good. Thank you.
So tonight's item is for the service of pre-emergent and post-emergent chemical application for weed abatement at various locations. The city properties maintained by Public Works require extensive weed abatement. This is the process of preventing and removing plants and grasses that pose a fire hazard and poor aesthetics among open land pond areas and structures and transportation routes. Hopefully that answers anyone's question about what weed abatement is. A total of 70 sites are in need of abatement service twice per year, along with monthly monitoring. Finance and Public Works staff work together to develop and advertise a formal proposal referred to as an RFP, request for proposal, and held mandatory pre-proposal meetings for anybody that was going to be submitting a proposal. And at this meeting, staff gave the opportunity for proposers to ask questions and seek clarification on the specs, bid and specs, and the process itself. The RFP specified a weighted evaluation criteria that was used to rank responding vendors on a scale of 100 total possible points. The evaluation was weighted more heavily toward capability, experience, qualifications, and references than cost and RFP compliance. 3 staff members evaluated all 3 proposals received, and the results were Custom Agronomics of West Sacramento scored 92.67. Barrows Landscaping of Yuba City scored 84 points. Clark Pest Control of Yuba City scored 55.68 points. Some notable items in the proposal that made Custom Agronomics stand out were more certified personnel listed in the proposal, which is very appealing to the reviewers due to the scope and acreage of the project and the narrow time frame in which to complete the work. References listed that were for properties more similar in size to the city's needs. A more comprehensive response in the proposal demonstrating their technical knowledge of the services needed and required. $86,663 will be drawn from the accounts in the general, water, wastewater, and various other funds in the city, including landscape and lighting maintenance districts, the successor agency for redevelopment, and the Sutter Animal Services Authority. Alternatives would be to modify or cancel in part or in its entirety the RFP, or direct staff to negotiate with any qualified contractor if it is in the best interest of the city to do so. Staff's recommendation is to award a contract to Custom Agronomic Solutions of West Sacramento, California, in the amount of $86,663 for the annual service with the possibility of 4 one-year extensions. And authorize the city manager to approve the extensions if it is in the best interest of the city. With that, I will entertain, or the staff or audience members will entertain questions.
Any questions from council before we proceed?
I'll wait till after.
You're going to wait till after? That's fine. We have some requests here for, we get 5 minutes each, beginning with Mr. Sterling Barrow. Step on up, sir. Thank you.
Sterling Barrow, Barrows Landscaping, 764 Winship Road, Yuba City, California. So I've been a resident of Yuba City for 61 years. I've been self-employed for 38 years. Barrows Landscaping, been licensed under C27 license during that time period. About 2 years ago, we saw a need to expand our business, and we decided to go into weed abatement and control. I've known Bruce Popovich for about 25 years. He was working for a company called All Seasons Weed Control out of Grass Valley. And Bruce had been working with them for about 12 to 14 years. During that time frame was a lead foreman and running their operations in the field. So we hired Bruce 2 years ago, and we'd come in and given a couple of quotes to the city various times on this weed abatement. We were high, and so we came in on this last contract, and as we looked at the numbers, we dropped our numbers about $6,000–7,000 before we submitted the bid in order to obtain the work. There was a couple of discrepancies in the staff's findings, we feel. Bruce had these contracts under All Seasons Weed Control from 2005 to 2013 with 1 year interruption, where somebody out of Red Bluff came in and took the contract for a lower bid. They screwed up. They gave it right back to All Seasons because it wasn't being done properly. So he has vast experience. The contract then was about 110 acres versus 150 acres today that you're asking for. Bruce was doing this with two people, him and another guy, and they were doing this contract for about a month is what it would take to do the contract. As far as our experience, we gave references. We do the maintenance of Sun City, Del Webb Estates down in Lincoln, 4,000 homes, 250 acres of nature preserve where we're responsible for controlling star thistle, stinkweed, and other noxious weeds that they don't want in their preserve, and several miles of pathway that they have in that preserve. As far as the 2 acres that they felt that we had experience with, they did not call our references, the city staff. They did not call Del Webb Estates to find out what our experience had been with them. And so we feel that they missed out on a good referral in that area. Also, we gave terms in our proposal that we would not accept payment until the city was satisfied with the work that was completed. I will guarantee you the city has never had that proposal given to them before, that they would not pay the contractor until it was satisfied with the work performed. So I think that was something that was overlooked as well, because the city's been burned the last 4 years or so in the weed abatement contracts that you've let out because the work wasn't done, people were paid, and then they just went on their way and they were fired. So that's kind of where we're at. Do you have any questions for me?
Mr. Barrow, just curious, has your company, obviously Mr. Popovich has worked for the city, has your company worked with the city, and has there ever been any issues with the work you've performed?
We've done numerous landscape projects for the city of Yuba City on right-of-ways, Garden Highway, the Sunsweet Boulevard. We were responsible for the landscaping there. As far as weed abatement, we have not done that specifically for the city of Yuba City. Installed fencing and other projects over the years for the city, and have not ever failed a contract or had any issues with the city in fulfilling our requirements.
Mr. Barrow, I have, can you give me an example of how large of a size of a weed abatement have your company has
Well, that's why I
managed?
referenced Del Webb Estates down
Okay.
in Lincoln area. It's a 250 acre area that we were responsible for maintaining and keeping the weeds out of, noxious weeds I'm speaking of.
Okay. Are you familiar with the type of weeds that are in the Yuba City area?
Bruce has sprayed every weed known to Yuba City.
Good, Bruce. So then, you mentioned that some of the process takes about a month.
Correct.
So your plan would be to do, to begin if you were given the bid. When would you begin?
As soon as weather permitting. There's a number of factors that you have to have the right conditions with the weather. You can't spray if it's too windy. You can't spray while it's raining. The moisture has to be in the ground for it to be absorbed, and then there has to be an amount of rainfall afterwards for it to be effective. We're talking about pre-emergence at this point. So there are a lot of factors that cause you to maybe go over a period of time. Bruce said that he took about 8 days for him and another man to do the spraying on the previous contracts that they held for 8 years with the city under all seasons weed control. That's working days.
Working days, okay.
So that's why we figured it would be about 3 to 4 weeks, given weather conditions, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Sir.
Through the mayor. Mr. Burrow, first of all, the contract that Bruce had before, any reasoning that you know of why it ceased under your operations? Was it your former employer? Was there any problems?
It was simply a low bid that came in and took them out.
Okay.
So it was a low bid criteria before with the city, and they kind of gone away from that
Okay.
to our detriment at this point.
The last two questions I have for you at this point is, you say that you're from the local area. You've been here 60 years. How many of your employees reside within the city limits of Yuba City?
All, well, 80. Most all of them are local, families, children, married,
Okay.
average tenure of 10, probably 8 to 10 years
Okay.
with us.
I thank you. The last question I have, as a business owner here in the community as well, your offer to do the work and not get paid until the city is satisfied with the work performed. Can your business bear that kind of commitment, because it's roughly a $70,000 or $80,000 commitment with wages, pesticides, vehicle maintenance, everything that goes into that project? If something was to happen and the city not be satisfied with the work, would that be severely detrimental to your business?
It would only be detrimental if we didn't perform the work,
Right.
but we typically do contracts that can range anywhere from $30,000 to $100,000. We don't take payment until the jobs are completed. That's very common for us.
Okay.
We do public works. We've done extensive work, football, athletic fields, etc., start to finish, drainage, irrigation, sod. We have vast experience in those type of contracts. So that's common for us not to even, we don't even take a deposit when we start a job. And I'm talking about custom jobs. Mm-hmm. And I tell the customers when they've accepted our proposal that you can pay us when you're happy with what we've done. And there's only been a couple of times that people have flaked out on us.
It's the way business used to
Filed
be
bankruptcy.
done. All right, thank you.
You wait. All right, Mr. Barrow, one of the things that caught my attention in the staff report is that you have 2 certified personnel. The other vendor can provide 6 certified personnel, and the most recent vendor could not meet our expectations with 5. Can you address your way around that, or what your opinion is regarding those numbers?
Well, as I mentioned before, Bruce Popovich did it with 2 people for 8 years.
Okay.
So it's a matter of equipment, it's a matter of technology, etc., which, we invested $150,000 in equipment when Mr. Popovich came to work for us. New equipment, capable of doing the work that needs to be done.
Okay, so we have your reassurance basically
Absolutely.
that the 2 people is sufficient.
Well, and we have 19 people, well, 21 total, including office staff, that work for Barrows Landscaping, full-time employees year-round. So we can apportion additional staff to do the work if it's necessary.
All right. And did you put Del Webb on your application?
Yes.
You did. All right.
It listed $45,000 to $150,000 a year because it varies on what they want us to do from year to year.
All right. Thank you. Hold on.
And when you we'll choose Del Wayne, do you do storm drain ponds, is that and everything else, or is it just landscaping mediums and through the community? Are you doing large scale ponds
The
and so on and so forth?
250 acre preserve is the area that we're responsible for. They have a landscape contractor that does the actual maintenance of the houses and the parkways, etc. We're doing all the fields, and we do work around pond areas, etc. We're not treating the ponds because that's a specific license that we're not interested in because of the liability involved.
So you gentlemen are, your company's spraying 30, 40 acre parcels at a time?
Yes.
Okay. Alrighty. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. One quick question, Spencer, if you may, just confirm or address the fact about Del Webb being contacted, if you're able. Thank you.
I'm going to call Scott up because he
Thank
was
you.
in checking references.
Sure.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Del Webb was not contacted. The committee did not contact any references whatsoever. We actually visited local sites to compare the scope of work, is how we did our reference check.
Okay. All right. No further questions. We have another speaker. If you care to, Mark Barrow. Is Mark here? Pass? All right. How about Bruce Popovich? Pass, sir?
Hello. Hello.
And there we have Mr. Mulliner up here, too.
Hey guys, honorable mayor, vice mayor, councilmen, women, good to see you guys. I really didn't come here to speak on this tonight, but I think everybody that knows me up there on that dais knows that I'm here to speak for the local contractor. And the more I hear about, Sacramento, Yuba City, it's for me, you hire local, you get local people, you get them to invest in the community. For me, I hope you guys will consider the local contractor. Once again, that's Mark Mulliner with Local 228 Plumbers and Pipe Fitters. Thank you.
It sure is. All right. Would anyone else from the public like to speak on the item? Sir, please. If anyone else would like to speak after this gentleman, please step up and cue yourself if you don't mind. Welcome.
Good evening, Thomas Burns. So I'm a local contractor too, and I don't know Mr. Barrow from Adam. I've seen his trucks around, that's it. But 5 people, 2 people, I know that 2 people can outdo 5 people many times. When it comes to the work, it depends on the work ethic of the people doing the work. So definitely I would consider this local contractor to do the job, big time. I think that should be a high precedent. So I'd revisit the whole thing. And I don't know if the bid prices were given per contractor. Was that available to us? I must have missed that. But anyway, I'm for the local contractor.
Thank you very much, sir. It's like we have one more.
Hello, my name is Donovan Dimon. I'm with Custom Agronomic Solutions out of West Sac. We had this contract previously before last year. We use top quality products. We have 6 or 7 employees that can come do the job. I did it personally for 5 years myself. We got every extension because we do good work. And we did the pre-emergent in the fall, got it done in 2 weeks. So we can do up to 50 acres a day with as many people we have, and I believe the contract's 150 acres. So that's all we do. We don't do mowing, we don't do anything like that. We concentrate on the chemical side of it.
Great.
So,
Thank you, sir.
thank you.
You have a question for him?
No. Spencer, I have a question for you. If council refuses at this time, do we have a time limit? Is there a time limit that this has to be done by? And are we gonna have to go back out? Is it gonna be another 6-week process in order to have this done? 2 questions, please.
So in the bid specifications that we sent out to everyone that was interested, says that you have this proposal has to be awarded in 60 days. And so I'd have to look at my clock, but we're probably getting close. We don't have too many more council meetings left before we would be able to award or have to go back out to bid.
Okay. Thank you, Spencer.
Mr. Mayor, did you care for me to read the prices? I did not make that part of
If you
my...
have a question about the prices, yes, please do.
Okay, for Mr. Burns' sake. Custom Agronomics of West Sacramento was $86,663. Barrows Landscaping of Yuba City was $76,584.75. And Clark Pest Control of Yuba City was $176,496. And because Clark Pest Control was 200% higher than even Custom Agronomics, that we haven't really made them much of this discussion, and they haven't called or made any inquiries as well.
All right, thank you. All right, one last call from the public? Nothing? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Scott.
Actually, if council does reject it, there is a time-sensitive window that we do need to get the pre-emergent in the ground, and it's usually February, March so just to make you guys aware of that.
Thank you. All right, back to council for comment or questions.
Through the mayor, to the city attorney, it was my understanding at the beginning of the presentation that we as a council had the opportunity to select one of the other bidders if they were qualified. Is that correct?
Your codes are not as clear as I would prefer them to be, but the council has adopted a policy, a purchasing policy for professional services and other services. Those are based on a selection criteria of demonstrated competence. Can they do the job? Professional qualifications. Do they have all the licensing necessary for it? Their availability. Are they available in order to do this? And fair and reasonable cost. Those are the bid criteria. If the council is inclined to go to another party that is involved in this process, my recommendation would be that the council do it on those particular grounds and also find that it is in the best interest of the city to do that. Now, that being said, if there is what I call the initial candidate that comes across, I usually recommend that they have an opportunity to address those issues as well that may be raised by the council. I don't know if they're here tonight. If they're not here and we have a timeline, we need to move forward and the council can go forward with that. But, long explanation, but demonstrated competence, professional qualifications, availability, and fair and reasonable price.
Hold those thoughts.
You're going to need them.
May I continue?
Please.
First and foremost, I want to acknowledge the work of the screening committee because I know these people individually and I know their level of competence. But at the same time, as a local business operator, I have a strong affinity for keeping things local when it's possible to do so. And I am aware from being involved in bid processes, not only as a former fire chief for this city, but in my current position as president of an ag equipment company, that bidding or always going with the locals does pose a bit of a risk. With that being said, I did receive an email from Eugene Barrows and requesting a phone call, and I contacted him last night, and we had a brief discussion. And what he expressed to me was very similar to what Mr. Barrows expressed this evening. It seems to me that Barrows Landscaping is capable of doing the job. And as a local local company, taking care of local people, of which 80% are local people, I would like to at least, with the permission of the council, to consider this local company. And no disrespect to Custom Agronomics in the least, but Barrows Landscaping is $10,000, roughly $10,000 less expensive, and I am aware of Mr. Popovich doing weed abatement in the city before, and I do think that they do have the capability based on the presentations I've heard tonight. So at this point, I'm sure other council people have some questions or comments, but I'll pass it back to you, sir.
Thank you. Anybody else care to comment?
Through the mayor, I also spoke with Jean Barnes over the weekend and looked at the overall process. And a couple of the questions that I had in the review of the application was looking at the evaluation criteria where we listed capability, experience, and qualifications. And after listening to you and listening to our city staff earlier as well, it seems to me that there hasn't been any history that you haven't complied or done well in your work with the city. And so I'm in favor of what Councilman Boomgarden is stating to look at changing the vendor bid and supporting Barnes Landscaping for the bid. Barrows. What did I say?
Barnes.
Close enough. Sorry, Mr. Barnes. Barrows. Barnes and Barrows. I gave you a new thing. Barrow. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. I appreciate it.
All right. Anybody else? Go ahead.
Through the mayor.
Yes.
As a local business owner here as well, the reason I thank you for answering the questions, and we got 80% of 21 employees that reside within our community. Finance is what I do. We have to look at the value of the $10,000 as we're going into the budget coming up in a few months. That's the first point that I raise. So back to what our city attorney said, we can look at certain things on certain merits, and the first thing we have to look at is a $10,000 savings. Do I think you guys have the competency and the talent to do it? It worked for about 13 or 14 years, and I think it would continue right along. But the bigger point is we need to grow this economy, Mr. Mayor. And a dollar that is reinvested in this community will turn over an average of about 9 times. So there's a lot of value in keeping it local. And I will end with those comments.
All right. Thank you. Good. Nothing? All right. I just want to comment by first reiterating the fact that no disrespect at all to staff and your findings. The findings you made and the staff report took effort, and you came to a reasonable and the conclusion makes sense. It's valid, and I appreciate your recommendation. But that's what gets before us as exactly that, our recommendation. And so that's what they pay us for, or elect us for, is to make the tough call, because we're able to do that. You are very pragmatic, methodical, and fair in your evaluation. You came to a logical conclusion. I appreciate that. I, too, without repeating what my colleagues have said, am in favor of going local, and that would be my vote today. Now, that being said, I'd entertain a motion.
Before we make the motion, how would you like to have this done, Shannon?
If the council is inclined to award the contract to Barrows Landscaping, the motion would be to deny the award to Custom Agronomics from West Sacramento and award it to Barrows Landscaping, Inc. based upon the criteria of the professional qualifications, fair and reasonable cost, demonstrative competence, and availability, and direct staff to include updated writings supporting the council's findings consistent with your direction tonight. Again, it's longer. We have archaic procedures, so we're trying to do what we can with those procedures. So if you're inclined to do that, just say, I move what he said, and then we can go from there.
I move what he said.
And I'm sorry, Mayor, I see a look on your face. I'm really not doing this to you.
Several attorney jokes come to mind, but it's okay. It's all good. All right, we have a motion and a second to move forward with awarding a contract for the reasons stated to Barrows Landscaping of Yuba City, California. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. Motion carries. Congratulations. It doesn't mean nothing, but I'll talk to you later about that.